Dabo Swinney just made an interesting move, adding Lonnie Galloway to the coaching staff. This could be a game changer for the Clemson offense, or could it be just a roll of the dice? We'll talk about it coming up right now on Locked On Clemson.
You are Locked On Clemson, your daily podcast on the Clemson Tigers. Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
What's up, Tiger fans? Happy Friday. I am here, Morgan Thomas, all week. Man, I made it through the whole first week. I can't believe it. I am back, and I am here to host the Locked On Clemson podcast, hopefully for many, many more weeks to come. If you haven't seen of me or heard of me or been a part of the show this week, well, you need to go back and listen to a couple of those past episodes. But just to give you a little bit about myself, I'm a host and producer of this show and part-time host and producer over on 105.5 The Roar, where we talk all things Clemson athletics. And thanks for making Locked On Clemson your first listen every day. We're part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day. If you're new to the show, be sure to hit that like and subscribe button and the notification bell as well, so you don't miss an episode. I put out all new episodes every single week, and you don't want to miss it. Don't forget to follow me over on X at The Morgan T Show as well. Super Bowl 59 is here, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. New customers can bet just $5, and if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. Download the app or head to FanDuel.com to get started. Now, you heard what I said previously about Lonnie Galloway. We're going to talk about that segment 1. Segment 2, we're going to talk way too early All-American team that I heard from ESPN, and also Clemson versus number 2 Duke this Saturday, 6:30 p.m., not 6 p.m. Move back a little bit, 6:30 p.m. That'll be segment number 3. So I'm glad you're part of the show. Podcast, it's great to have you back with me for this end of the week show. So let's get it started here. Segment 1. Did Clemson just hire a game-changing analyst or kind of a risky move? Some people may think a little bit of both ways. I was looking at the message boards, and I thought it was kind of interesting because myself personally, I didn't have a lot of background on Lonnie Galloway, but as I started doing some research for the show, I started to realize, maybe there's some interesting things going on here. Maybe there's something that is different from some of the past hires that Dabo Swinney has made. So Tiger fans, you may have seen over on some of the outlets that new offensive analyst Lonnie Galloway is on the team. And let's talk a little bit about him, give you some background in case you don't know much. 27 years coaching in college football. He's been at West Virginia, Wake Forest, Louisville. Most recently, you may remember him at North Carolina for the Tar Heels as the passing game coordinator. So could he eventually be part of the passing game coordination? Could he be part of Garrett Riley's group? Maybe. I don't know. We'll see. He's going to be an analyst for now, so that'll be helping those guys for sure. What is his track record? Well, it seems like, honestly, I'd probably mark it down as good or impressive at least. He's developed NFL guys like Josh Downs. You know him. He was drafted by the Colts. He was pretty good against Clemson. Tez Walker, picked up by the Ravens just recently. At West Virginia, he coached Kevin White and Mario Alford, both of whom made it to the NFL. Since 2012, Galloway has helped 9 wide receivers get drafted and 14 players total make it to the NFL. So that kind of tells me that he knows how to develop specifically wide receivers, and he's obviously pretty skilled when it comes to the offensive game plan. But I did mention that there was a little bit of scandal, I guess you could say, a little bit of controversy behind him as well. You may not have heard this, but WakeyLeaks. You remember WakeyLeaks? Well, WakeyLeaks was a thing back in 2016 while he was at Louisville. He was an assistant coach there, and he got caught up in kind of this scandal. So a guy named Tommy Elrod was a former Wake Forest coach that turned into a radio broadcaster. Well, you know what they say about radio broadcasters. Now, I don't really know what they say, but I'm telling you, I'm one, so I'm kind of nervous about what I'm going to say here. But Tommy Elrod had confidential game plans of Wake Forest, and he gave them to Galloway before Louisville played Wake Forest. So what was the result? Well, Galloway was suspended for Louisville's bowl game, and it was kind of a, not a good look for him. He did bounce back, continuing over at the Tar Heels and then over at Clemson. So maybe, just maybe, I mean, it was kind of a big deal, but then I don't know, it doesn't seem like it was too big of a big deal. I mean, it was almost 10 years ago now. Despite the scandal, though, that it was back then, I think his strengths are undeniable. He's a proven recruiter, which is something that could help in the future. And he's obviously proven at developing wide receiver talent. I think on him being a part of the offensive coordination, maybe the passing game, or even at least helping with the strategy and analysis of everything, I think it'll be good. To me, I could see him pairing up with Tyler Gresham and, working on that wide receiver core, which could probably take them to new levels. So on a scale of 1 to 10, how excited am I about this? I think I'm pretty intrigued. I would say probably a 7 or 8. How worried am I about, the WakeyLeaks thing, the former scandal or whatever it was 9 years ago? I'd probably say like a 2. I mean, in the world of college football, everybody is super competitive. Everybody's trying to get, an upper hand. You want to try to do it the right way, though, and maybe that was just a kind of a mistake that he had made. He did receive that information from Elrod, but the extent to what he really used it for, we really don't know. So while we do know he did take it, how much it really impacted what his game plan was or what was used with Louisville, we don't know. So I'm curious to see what you think. Let me know over on X at the Morgan T Show. Give me some comments, and I appreciate it. Are you excited about this? Is an interesting situation with this. I do think that Clemson. I can understand where Dabo Swinney is doing this because. Clemson needs to continue to develop and grow their offense and to continue to be one of the best offenses in the country. And Dabo has done those things, done the right things to get Garrett Riley in, to get some wide receivers in. And now he's just going to continue to supplement them with more coaching staff to make them even better. So overall, like I said, I'm giving this a 7 or 8 on how excited I am. So hopefully you are excited as well, because I think it's a pretty good move. And it seems like when I go over on X and I look at what other coaches are saying and what other fans are saying, it does seem like you guys are excited as well, and those coaches are excited. I think that one thing that could become a big deal, maybe not initially, because I don't know if he's going to be recruiting initially. Maybe he would be helping on campus. I don't know if he'd be going out and recruiting, outside of campus. But it could be something that we're down the line, big time recruiter for Clemson, maybe in the future, could be in his future. I think another person mentioned that he has a son who is a big time defensive 4-star recruit out there, not on the offense, on the defensive side. But maybe, just maybe, that's an opportunity for Clemson to land a future star on the defensive side of the ball in his son. And you know how Dabo is with making sure to develop and get the sons of coaches in the pipeline. And for the most part, they've all done, pretty respectable for Clemson over the years. So, all right. Before we continue, I did want to let you know that the next segment is going to be Way Too Early All-American Team, where we're going to look at what the players at ESPN thinks could be one of the All-America team for Clemson. The big game is almost here, and there's no better way to make it even more exciting than with PrizePicks, the best place for daily fantasy sports. With over 10 million members and billions in winnings awarded, PrizePicks makes it fun and simple to get in on the action. Here's how it works. You pick more or less on at least 2 players' projections, and if you're right, you could win up to 1,000 times your cash. PrizePicks even has a free pick for the big game where Patrick Mahomes only needs to throw 1 yard to win. Pair it with one more pick and you're cashing out right there. This week, I told you in the previous episode, I really like Saquon Barkley this week and the Eagles. So I don't know if you would really be okay pairing that with Patrick Mahomes, but that would be one that I like for sure. But what do I love the most about PrizePicks? Well, fast, safe withdrawals. When I win, my cash is in my account as little as 15 minutes. Check out the promos tab to tell any of the super sweet Millie winners, big time game lineups. If you tail a lineup that goes 3 for 3, then you can win a split of 1 million in promo funds. Download the app today and use Locked On College to get $50 off instantly, or $50 instantly play when you play your first $5 lineup. That's code Locked On College for $50 instantly after you play your first $5 lineup. PrizePicks, run your game. Clemson's making some waves early with this 3 players being named in ESPN's 2025 Way Too Early All-America team. There's a question I think I want to ask is, do we think that they're truly elite going into the 2025 season? Let's break them down one by one. On the list for Clemson, Cade Klubnik leads it, quarterback, first team. Klubnik's 2024 season was very impressive, in my opinion. 3,639 passing yards, 36 touchdowns, 6 interceptions, only 6 interceptions, by the way. Adding in that 463 rushing yards and 7 rushing touchdowns. You know, there were only 3 quarterbacks in FBS that surpassed 3,600 passing yards and 400 rushing yards last season. I'm going to give you a second to think about it. Who do you think those 3 quarterbacks were that did that as well as Cade Klubnik? Put the clock 2, 3, 4. I'll give you 5 seconds. I got Will Howard from Ohio State, 4,010 passing yards, 35 touchdowns, and John Mateer, Washington State, 3,139 passing yards, 29 touchdowns. He actually had 826 rushing yards on 15 rushing touchdowns. Big time for sure. So if we're talking about Madden ratings, you know I love Madden ratings in college. Well, we could say NCAA 25 ratings. I'd probably give Cade Klubnik's 2024 season a 91, 93-ish out of 100, as I think he finished the season. Now, he did have some hiccups here and there, and he still needs to win the big game. But I think he had a top-tier season as a dual-threat quarterback. I keep going back to that one time against Pittsburgh where he basically won he won the game for Clemson and took it over on a 50-yard rush. And it wasn't just that he did it. It was just kind of the confidence that he had in his run to do it. You know, you'd seen Cade over time just kind of slide or really slide when he shouldn't have slid and or just run out of bounds or maybe even throw the ball away or unfortunately sometimes maybe even fumble the ball. But when that play happened against Pittsburgh, I thought, wow, this guy has really started to have some things click. And then throughout the season, really, you could see some runs where it just was like, okay, he kind of is getting more comfortable. He started to step up in the pocket a little bit more, didn't roll it out into pressure as much as he had in the past, and did kind of limit his turnovers, as I mentioned, only 6 interceptions. So I definitely give Cade Klubnik the award, I guess, or the seal or the sticker of one of the best dual threat quarterbacks in the country for 2024. I'm curious to see how he can do that in 2025. I think really everything sets up, as we mentioned in yesterday's episode. So go check out Thursdays if you haven't. But everything really sets up for him to have a strong push for a national championship season, and it definitely going into the playoffs and even getting into the postseason with the ACC championship game. There's room for improvement, continuing to get his completion percentage up. I think his yards per pass, he continuing to even push the limits there. Going away from the dink and dunk Cade Klubnik that we've seen, check down Cade to a guy who's just really opening it up, and with Tristan Smith and another year under Bryant Wesco and TJ Moore, maybe even adding in Galloway to the mix with Gresham and Richardson and Garrett Riley. I think that might be a really good combination to find some ways to make this offense even more dynamic than it has been in the past couple of months. So I'm excited to see. Still 28 career starts and his top receivers returning. I think really I think he's going to have a monster year. Really. I'm going to say that. I'm going to say it out loud. I don't want to jinx the guy, but I'm going to say I'm looking forward to the passing charts that I put out over on X at the Morgan T Show. Next guy on the list was TJ Parker, defensive end, first team. He is a name that I think will just become more of a nightmare for offenses in 2025. Right now, he had last season 55 total tackles, 11 sacks, and a school record 6 forced fumbles. To put that in perspective, I was looking at the average of defensive ends and that kind of what they do in that area, 5 to 7 sacks. So he's almost double or more in the production level of other defensive ends in the country. If you were to tell me or ask me what kind of rating I would give TJ Parker for 2024, I think it was a quiet one. A lot of people really didn't talk about him much, and I think that was unfair because on the stat sheet, he really did show up. And maybe it was just one of those things where I know that there was a lot of frustration with the rush defense. So maybe that kind of died it down a little bit. And overall, Clemson, struggling to win the marquee game. But I kind of give TJ Parker another high grade as I did with Cade Klubnik. I would say TJ Parker is one of those guys that's being in the 90s, 91, 92, maybe even a 94 out of 100. To me, he's a game wrecker. He's just going to continue to get better and stronger. And his ability to get to the quarterback, and like we mentioned, force turnovers consistently is really going to continue to make him a nightmare. I don't think he's just a good defensive end. I think he is elite. And I'll give you another reason. I'll give you kind of a bonus reason after I get to this third player here. But Peter Woods was also on that list, defensive tackle. You can't really forget about him. He anchors the interior, and he's just going to do that again in 2025. But so I definitely agree with all three of these picks. He had 26 tackles, 3 sacks, and 3 tackles for loss. Now, that if I just say that stat line, you're like, oh, well, that's just kind of a B player, right? That's not really that big a deal. That doesn't jump out to you at all. But one thing is defensive interior linemen struggle to kind of rack up a lot of things on the stat sheet. So you really can't use the stat sheet as much for them because they really don't get the love. And a lot of the stuff that they do to really disrupt offenses doesn't get shown in tackles and sacks. So I don't think that that's fair. But also, if you're familiar with last year, he didn't play every single game. He missed 4 games due to injury, so only played 10 out of 14. Even in spite of that, he was extremely dominant when he was out there. You knew when he was more healthy than not. There were still times where he was out there, and you knew, man, this guy is still trying to get things going. I was actually in the stadium when that questionable block happened. And, I think it was against Appalachian State. And, to me, he was livid on the sideline when he went back and looked at the replay on the tablet. And I don't blame him either. I think it was a unnecessary block. It was a low block, kind of I'm not going to say dirty because I don't know the player's intentions. I can't assume that. But it definitely wasn't part of the play, didn't impact the play at all, but it was done, on the weak side, nowhere near where the run was going at the time. So I do think it was unfortunate, kind of got him messed up for the middle part of the season. But overall, Peter Woods, I think it's wrong to say he'd be an 85 to a 90. I think he's also a 90 to a 95 type guy as well. Solid, dependable. When he's healthy, he's an elite defensive tackle. Versatile when you need him. Hopefully you won't need him this year at defensive end, but he is versatile in that way. So he can bounce around if needed. But I know a lot of people kind of didn't really like that because it was really more of a problem with defensive end depth and really roster management on Dabo Swinney's side than Peter Woods really, filling a defensive end role. So get Peter Woods back to the defensive interior, have TJ Parker to the outside. And oh, by the way, some guys that I think will be some supplemental players to look out for to help these guys have even better stats from 2024 to 2025. And I got 3 guys to list. Will Helt, defensive end, transfer from Purdue, 56 tackles, 10 tackles for loss, 5 sacks in 2024. He absolutely disrupts the backfield. He gets pressure. He's going to help relieve some of the issues and double teams with Parker, because you're not going to be able to do that anymore. He's going to help relieve some issues with Peter Woods, and it's going to make all 3 of them more successful in 2025. Helt's going to be able to get to you and really attack and push things. I think it's going to be absolute fire with those guys out there. You add in Capehart, you add in some other guys in the defensive interior that's going to rotate. I think it's going to be fire when you get to Death Valley and you have those guys just going absolutely nuts in the backfield of opposing teams. I'm here for it, and I hope you are as well. Another transfer that I have on the list of complementary players to these guys that were named on that list was Jeremiah Alexander. Now, I know he doesn't have a lot in the way of stats, but he is a former 5-star recruit and a high school teammate of Peter Woods, and he was a star in high school. And overall, in his time with Alabama, he had 93 total tackles, 29 tackles for loss, and 10 sacks. So he definitely has potential and talent and some measurables there to make him be an elite player. It's just being able to put it all together. Can him and Tom Allen and Dabo Swinney and the other guys that he gets surrounded by just really give him a blank slate to just reset and get after it? I hope so, for sure. Honestly, when you get into that linebacker room and you have a guy like Jeremiah Alexander, which, by the way, I wanted to mention this too. When he went to the Fort Hill recruiting wrap up, I saw some videos from that. He could do nothing but praise God about the opportunity to be with Clemson and to have this kind of second chance to kind of show what he's all about and show what his talent level is and what he's capable of. And I'm excited for it. The guy is humble. He seems to be hungry, humble, and appreciative for the opportunity. And those things will line up well for 2025. And then you can't forget Sammy Brown, the, middle linebacker that's going to come into the situation as a sophomore. Had an amazing freshman season. You just can't keep the guy off the field. And he's going to continue, the more he's out there, I think, and the more he develops, continue to really, again, become a leader for Clemson, but also supplement those guys that are being highlighted here as possible All-American candidates in 2025. So I think Clemson's defense has really, Dabo Swinney and Clemson has done what they need to do to get back to being that top of the top defensive elite category. They're a good defense, but I do think the moves that they made gets them back into that elite level where they're just absolutely dominant. But are those Tigers the real deal? I think you would give me a big green check on that. They're definitely worthy of the hype. Absolutely. Those guys are anchoring the defense. Cade Klubnik on the other side anchoring the offense, and with those supplemental guys in there, I think it's going to be huge. That's my take. Again, let me know what you think. Give me a shout out over on X at the Morgan T Show. Coming up next, I'm going to talk about the big game tomorrow night. Clemson, can they take down the number 2 Duke Blue Devils? 6:30 p.m. Saturday. Super Bowl 59 is here. 1 game, 2 teams, endless possibilities, and there's no better way to make every play more exciting than with FanDuel Sportsbook. Whether it's predicting the first touchdown, calling the MVP, or even betting on a coin toss, FanDuel makes it easy to get in on the action with live betting all game long. You can adjust your bets as the game unfolds and feel the thrill from kickoff to the final whistle. The live betting feature lets you stay involved no matter what happens on the field, and the app is super easy to navigate. Plus, knowing you can place a $5 bet and potentially win $200 in bonus bets for the Super Bowl, well, that's just icing on the cake. Download the app or head over to FanDuel.com to get started. Bet just $5 and you'll win. And if you win, you'll score $200 in bonus bets. That's FanDuel.com. Bet with FanDuel, official partner of Super Bowl 59. Can Clemson take down number 2 Duke on Saturday, or will the Blue Devils extend their winning streak? Tiger fans, we have a massive matchup with an ACC showdown Saturday. Clemson hosts number 2 Duke at Littlejohn Coliseum, 6:30 p.m. It got moved back from 6, so make sure you're there on time and catch all the action. If you're not there, you can watch it over on ESPN. But I do have to start out with some maybe bad news. The bad news is that Duke is rolling into town with a 16-game winning streak, sitting at 20-2 overall, perfect 12-0 in ACC play. But Clemson is really not that far behind. They are 18-5 and 10-2 in conference, and the game isn't just about bragging rights, but this could be huge for the ACC title. Regular season, maybe, just maybe they have a chance for the regular season title if they win this game and Duke messes up before the season is over. But it's definitely one that is going to be high stakes. And, Littlejohn Coliseum is going to be absolutely rocking. So I wanted to give you 3 threes, and hopefully Clemson's threes are on fire tomorrow night. But I'm going to give you 3 threes, all right? 3 reasons they should win. I'm going to give you 3 reasons Clemson won't win, and 3 players that you are going to have to watch out for if you are scouting or competing against, if that Clemson should have to watch for. If you're a Clemson analyst, you need to watch for 3 guys from Duke's side of things. So when it comes to 3 reasons why Clemson will win, well, actually, you know what? I don't want to start with bad. I don't want to start with good and then end with bad. So I'm going to flip the script here. I had it written down where I'm going to do this way, but I'm going to do it the other way. I'm going to do a reversal here. I'm going to do an audible, and we're going to start with 3 reasons Clemson will actually lose. Okay, so we're going to start with the bad first. That way I can give you the good at the end. All right, how do you like that? Duke's one of the best rebounding teams in the country. They lead the ACC. I think that they really could cause some problems for Clemson. And Clemson struggles. They're a good defensive rebounding team when they have the offensive rebounding team and defensive rebounding team when they have Ian Shefflin at full strength. I don't know if he's really at full strength. And when they have Victor Locken for the entire game, and Chauncey Wiggins can get in there and help as well. But I do feel like that Duke has a chance to be dominant on the boards Saturday. So if Clemson can find a way to continue to be scrappy and beat them out on things, I think that's a win for Clemson, a huge win for Clemson if they can avoid Duke just absolutely dominating on the board. All right, so that's number 1. Number 2 for me is Cooper Flagg is an absolute problem, scoring 20 points per game, 8 rebounds per game. He is an absolute force to deal with, both on offense and defense. He is worthy of all the praise and hype of being one of the best players in the country. I don't know if you can really stop him. You just kind of have to try to slow him down. Don't let him just absolutely dominate. And it goes back to the rebounding part of the game. You can't let him just destroy you, but again, maybe he just does that. And in that case, you have to limit what the other guys can do. So, and that's where the other guys come into play. Duke's depth and experience. I think Clemson has struggled to show me that they have really more than about 6 or 7 players. You'd love to have way more than that. You'd love to maybe have 10 guys that you could easily rotate in and out. It seems like early on in the season, we thought they did have about 10 guys that they could rotate in and out. But as the season has been winding down and injuries really haven't been a huge factor, the bench has kind of like dwindled down to usable players of 2 or 3. I wouldn't even know if I would really even give them 3. So really 2 guys off the bench that they've really kind of, been able to trust. And that would be Dylan Hunter and Del Jones, the point guard. I'm sorry, I went blank there for a second, but I think those are the 2. So you really have 7. Maybe I'm missing one. Let me know if I'm missing one. But Duke's depth and experience with Tyrese Proctor, Caleb Foster, and then Cooper Flagg is going to be really difficult for Clemson Saturday. So those are the 3 reasons why I think Clemson may not have a good time. And those are the three players. So I kind of already gave you a hint into my Duke's big three. So those were the three. Now, Caleb Foster's more of a bench player, sophomore guard that can come in and he can hit some key shots here and there. So I think his consistent offense can help Duke when they need it down the stretch. And then Tyrese Proctor, the junior guard, is just an engine on Duke's offense, a balanced scoring guy, playmaker, ability to just control the tempo is huge. And then Cooper Flagg is the forward that is just nothing short of just being an absolute beast out there. So again, really, I don't know how much you can really stop him. You just got to try to slow him down a little bit. So that's three reasons why Clemson would lose. Three players that you need to watch as a Clemson fan on the Duke side of the game, of the team, of the court, I guess. And then three reasons why Clemson will win. So here's the good thing. Clemson will win because, Duke can be a little vulnerable on the road. They are a dominant team in the ACC. And while they haven't really lost the road games in the ACC, they have some narrow wins against Miami, against Virginia Tech, where they have shown times where they can be beatable away from Cameron Indoor Stadium. So I think that Clemson can capitalize on maybe some of these, just a minor crack. You never know. Just a little bit is all you need to kind of knock the wall down. And maybe, just maybe, Clemson can find that and take advantage. So Duke's not unbeatable. Are they a really good team? Is it going to be extremely difficult to win? Yes and yes, but they're not unbeatable. So they are a little bit vulnerable on the road. So I'm putting that as one on my list. And then the other, Chase Hunter, he has been the leader on the team, and he's got to continue to do that. I understand a lot of people frustrated at the very end with him just taking against Georgia Tech, with him just taking a bunch of threes and they really didn't fall. I get that. And that's going to happen. And I told you that Clemson, that's kind of one of their kryptonite. I said it on the radio and I'll say it here again. One of their kryptonite is fouling out and fouling out too early, which we saw against Georgia Tech, and then going cold at the absolute wrong time, which we also saw against Georgia Tech. So we saw that against Louisville. We saw it against South Carolina. And when they go cold at the wrong time and then they start fouling or turning it over during those times, it is kind of ugly basketball, to be honest with you. So can Chase Hunter get back to being the hot hand? Can he continue to dominate from three-point land? If he gets hot early and really kind of gets the crowd behind him and really kind of presses Duke's defense and creates openings on the inside, because he has such a hot hand, gets openings on the inside for Locken and Wiggins and Shefflin, I think it'll be great for Clemson to take down Duke in Littlejohn Coliseum. And that would be my number one. So that leads me to my number one reason why Clemson will win the game. And that is because Clemson has been a dominant team at home. They have the crowd behind them at Littlejohn Coliseum. It is going to be electric. The Clemson fans, the Clemson faithful, the cheerleaders, the student section, they are just going to bring that energy. And the Tigers have been known for feeding off that energy. And against a top team like Duke, it is not uncommon for them under Brad Brownell in the past, 5 years or so, for Clemson teams to feed off that, bring the next level intensity that they need, and take that home court advantage all the way to the final whistle for a win. So Duke being a little bit vulnerable, showing some weaknesses on the road. They haven't lost, but weaknesses. That's number one. Recap. Number two, Chase Hunter starting out hot. I want to see it. And then the Littlejohn Coliseum faithful getting out there and just absolutely going nuts and bringing the intensity, bringing the energy, I think will be three key reasons why Clemson can and may, and I'm not going to jinx it and say will, but those are three reasons why they could win against Duke Saturday. This isn't just another ACC game. This could be a statement game, and Clemson's known for doing that against Duke and North Carolina at home. Can they do it again? Can they catapult themselves up into being one of the best teams in the ACC and maybe even crack into being one of the best teams in the country after a couple of hiccups here and there? Can they really prove those national media analysts and experts out there that they deserve to be considered one of the best teams in the country? While losing may not ruin their season, it does kind of take away or allow Duke to have a stronghold on the ACC. Only time will tell, though, and it doesn't take much. It's not going to be much longer before we get to find out. Saturday, 6:30, if the Tigers can rise to the challenge, we shall see. Hey, that's it. I hope you've enjoyed the show. Don't forget to follow me over on X at The Morgan T Show. Hey, by the way, thank you for making Locked On Clemson your first listen today. For your second listen, check out Locked On ACC podcast. Alex Dono, Kenton Gibbs, keep it real and bring you the truth about where your favorite ACC team stands within the conference. Find Locked On ACC on YouTube or wherever you listen to podcasts. And as always, Tiger fans, we'll see you at the top of the hill.